The Salem-Keizer School Board meeting, our regular meeting for March 18th, 2014, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Christy, if you'd please call the roll.
Jim Green.
Here.
Chuck Lee.
Here.
Chris Brantley.
Here.
Jeff Fayville.
Here.
Rick Kimball.
Present.
Paul Kylo.
Here.
Nancy McMorris Audix.
Here.
Okay, any agenda modifications, board members? Okay, we'll move on to spotlights on success. Superintendent Raddick.
Mr. Chair and Board, very pleased to welcome Lisa Harnish, who's a board member with the Salem-Keizer Education Foundation, who will make an award for the Volunteer of the Month.
Excellent. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I'm here on behalf of Karina Lee, who is off traipsing in Italy right now, proud member of Salem-Keizer Education Foundation Board. And it is my pleasure to welcome Maria Walters and Principal Lisa Sundeth to come forward. Excellent. So when we asked for a volunteer to recognize this month, and actually you'll be going forward over here to get your certificate, Cummings Elementary staff was quick to nominate Maria Walters. According to Cummings office manager Nancy Ward, Maria is the most awesome volunteer ever. She's the mom of one of the 4th grade students and the school's volunteer coordinator. Last year, Maria was at the school every single Thursday, going into every classroom and stuffing student folders. Flyers, forms, newsletters, and handbooks all went home on Thursdays last year, and Maria single-handedly saw to it that the families of Cummings's 400-plus students were in the know. Not only did Maria stuff the student folders, she kept track of arriving and departing students and family connections. By connecting the siblings within families and sending items one to a household, Cummings was able to reduce printing by almost 30%. Cummings staff is pleased to say that Maria is back again this year. Like the Energizer Bunny, she just keeps going and going and going. Cummings Elementary staff feel that Maria deserves some major kudos and wants her to know how much she's appreciated. Thank you for your support of Cummings Elementary students, staff, and the community. Congratulations.
So Jay Remy, Director of Communications and Community Relations, will make the presentation for the Volunteer Business Partner of the Month. Excuse me.
Thank you, Dr. Radich, Chair Green, and members of the board. If I could get Terry Gallagher, Annie Morton, and Jill Canifax to come forward and join the board chair and the superintendent. McKinley Elementary Principal Annie Morton and Kennedy Elementary Principal Terry Gallagher have nominated our Business Partner of the Month, photographer Jill Canifax. Jill has been giving classes to 5th grade students at Kennedy for over 10 years and at McKinley for 4 years. The classes are called Loving Lens, and they are a program of the Salem-Keizer Education Foundation serving all of our schools in the district. The Loving Lens is an 8-week course based on research in nonviolent communication. The course was developed by Jill in 1999 as a creative approach to reinforce our schools' safety and healthy climates. The program teaches teamwork, non-judgment, compassion, appreciation of diversity, conflict resolution, respect, listening skills, creating safety, and personal responsibility. During the course, she teaches students photography skills to capture their classmates in quality portraits. But the real lesson she teaches is how to look at every person with a lens that allows them to shine. We want to thank Jill for your time and dedication to the students of Salem-Keizer schools and say congratulations to Jill Canifax Photography as our Business Partner of the Month for March. Thank you.
Melissa Cole, Director of Middle Level Education, will make the next presentation.
Dr. Radich, Chairperson Green, and members of the board, it's an honor to recognize tonight 7th grade student Jackson Cato, who is here with his principal, Mr. Pete Danner, if you could come forward. Jackson is a student at Walker Middle School. He was the first place winner of the Why I Love Oregon essay contest hosted by the Salem-Keizer Education Foundation. The essay contest was a fun way to get students writing for different audiences and on a timely and fun topic, Valentine's Day and Oregon's birthday. The foundation surprised Jackson in his classroom with a Valentine's Day party to commemorate the traditional day of love and friendship and Oregon's state birthday. Jackson has only been an Oregonian for a short time, 8 months, yet his essay speaks of his love for the immense beauty of Oregon. He wrote that when he first entered Oregon, he wasn't expecting to be impressed, but then he saw the mountains and the first word that entered his head was magnificent. Jackson writes that he spent the rest of his journey to his new home in Oregon gazing through the car windows at the mountains, rivers, and trees. In his essay, Jackson says that one of the things he likes best about Oregon has to be the parks because he feels they emphasize the beauty and dignity of the state. In addition to an award certificate and a party for his classmates, Jackson also received an Oregon College Savings Plan account in the amount of $529. You can read Jackson's entire essay on the Salem-Keizer Education Foundation website. All of the essays are on display at the Must See Oregon Conference to be held at the Oregon Gardens in Silverton on May 17th. Congratulations, Jackson. Great job.
Kelly Carlisle, Director of High School Programs, will make 2 presentations this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Radich and Chairperson Green and members of the board. It's an honor to bring forward senior Lily Gordon from South Salem High School. South Salem High School senior Lily Gordon won the Oregon Sports Awards Be Like Neil contest. She was selected to co-host the annual awards event with ESPN Sports Center anchor and University of Oregon alum Neil Everett. Working with other students, Lily filmed her entry to post on YouTube, from which her winning entry was chosen. The awards show was held on March 7th at the Nike World Headquarters in Beaverton in the Stanford Theater at the Tiger Woods Center. Lily is no stranger to hosting or being in front of the camera. She hosts a weekly sports podcast for South Salem High School's newspaper, which can be found at clippian.com. You can also see her on the Salem-Keizer School's webpage explaining how our various departments operate in the district's in-a-minute videos. Watch Lily in action at the Sports Awards under the link The Show at OregonSportsAwards.com. Congratulations to Lily on being chosen for this special event. And now I would like to invite senior Pat Patara-Nutaporn from Sprague High School. Pat Patara-Nutaporn, a senior at Sprague High School, won the Best Application Award at the Code Day competition held January 18th and 19th at the Hewlett-Packard campus in Corvallis. Pat designed and wrote code for an original video game called The Green Mission that he created during the competition. Students had 24 hours at Code Day to program an entire app or game during the event. Using GameMaker coding software, all the graphics and animations used in Pat's video game were created on site during the competition. The futuristic fantasy game he created has an elaborate backstory that is based on real-life principles and on science. When playing this video game, players use special plants to defend humanity from radioactive machines. The Code Day competition in Corvallis was one of 8 events that simultaneously took place across the United States. Other cities where the events were held include New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle. A group called Student R&D sponsors the Code Day competitions, and its goal is to increase the number of students studying computer programming and engineering. A high school junior at Crescent Valley High School in Corvallis organized this Code Day event at Hewlett-Packard. Because the number of high-paying careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or what we call STEM, is predicted to continue growing in the United States in the future, we are very excited to recognize Pat's achievement in creating a video game that won the Best Application Award at Code Day. Congratulations, Pat.
Moving on in our agenda, we'll do audience communications, testimony related to agenda items only. We have 3 folks signed up to testify. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. We'll be using timers this evening. Paul, do you have the start and stop? Our counsel, Paul DeCoplos. When the yellow light turns on, you have 30 seconds to finish speaking. When the red light turns on, your time is up. Please state your name and address for the record. And first, we have the Mayor of Salem, Anna Peterson.
Thank you very much, Chair Green and members of the Board of Directors for Salem-Keizer School District. It's an honor and a privilege to be here to appear before you, and I appreciate this time tremendously. I'm here today seeking the Salem-Keizer School District's support of the Salem City Council's unanimous policy decision to assist in the redevelopment of the former Boise Cascade industrial site. The first step in this endeavor is to approve the multiple unit housing tax incentive program called MUTIP, the applications for both phases for the South Block apartments. The City Council unanimously approved its portion of the MUTIP for Phase 1 and Phase 2 on January 27th, and we request the Salem-Keizer School District Board agree to the policies approved by the City of Salem so the residential portion of the project can receive a full abatement of property taxes for 10 years. The Marion County Board of Commissioners passed their Resolution 14R-9 on March 12, 2014, supporting the policies approved by the Salem City Council. I want to emphasize that there is no direct cost or loss of revenue to any of the taxing districts, whether it's the city, Marion County, Salem-Keizer School District, the library, the transit district, etc. The South Waterfront Urban Renewal Area will be foregoing collection of tax increment for the 10-year period of time, but all taxing districts will continue to receive their portion of the frozen tax base. I want to emphasize why this project is so vitally important, not just for downtown, but for our entire city. The redevelopment of the site, the extension of the utility improvements, the expansion of Riverfront Park, none of those vital things will occur without the full abatement of the taxes on the South Block apartments. The addition of 175 units of residential apartments downtown will provide a 24/7 demand for downtown retail and restaurants. The Pringle Square South Block apartment project is a key building block to the economic development of not just downtown, but really for the city of Salem. It's going to be a game changer for our skyline and for our economic base particularly. And it's going to provide housing that's vitally needed. We know that multiple unit housing is needed in the Salem area, and this answers a very strong need. The apartment project will be a great amenity for workers in the area of downtown as well as adjacent neighborhoods. And it's going to provide an important healthy lifestyle for people who will be able to just walk right out their doors and have one foot in downtown, but one foot in one of the finest recreational and natural resources areas, actually a living classroom. And so I urge you and encourage you and implore you to please support the decision that the Salem City Council unanimously reached and support our approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Next on the list is City Councilor Diana Dickey.
Thank you, Chair Green and school board directors, for the time that we have with you tonight. I just also would like to echo the sentiments of our mayor and encourage you to support the MUTIP tax incentive request. I supported this tax incentive when I saw it because I really believe that this development is the right project to finally transform a very vacant property that has been that way for many, many years into an active and vibrant area that's going to transform our entire community. Not just the downtown, but I believe it's going to create a benefit for the residents of Salem and even outside of Salem. It's going to be a big draw for all in our area. So this housing is desperately needed, as the mayor mentioned. It's going to attract people that want to live in a more urban environment, which is not something we have very much of right now. It's close to many of our major employers downtown Salem, and I think it's going to help spur economic development as well. This development is going to help complement and help complete Salem's Riverfront Park, combined with Minto Brown Park and our future Minto Brown pedestrian bridge from Riverfront Park over to Minto Brown Park. That's going to connect more than 1,400 acres of parks, 30 miles of off-street trails that will be recreational use for our families, our downtown employees, and our visitors can use for free. So we're really excited about that. This project provides needed housing. It provides our downtown area with a cornerstone for economic development and helps us create an active transportation and healthy recreation area for our residents. And I think it'll benefit our entire community by offering amenities that will draw residents from outside the area as well. And I will say that the first time we saw this project last fall, not the same plan, but a different plan, I did not support the tax credit because I really believe, looking at the legislation, that it was really intended for, this tax credit is really intended for pedestrian, transit-oriented development, people being able to use other forms of transportation. I believe that this particular development does that. I think it really hits the mark for what the tax credit was originally designed to do. So with that, I would just urge your support of this tax credit abatement. Thanks.
Thank you. And last signed up to testify is City Councilor Chuck Bennett.
Dr. Radish, Chair Green, and members of the board, my name is Chuck Bennett. I'm president of the Salem City Council and city councilor for Ward 1, which includes downtown. So I have a particular interest in this project and have been very supportive of this particular iteration that's before you. The mayor has outlined the really lack of impact on the school district. I'd like to talk to you about the impact on the local economy. This will add 175 units of downtown housing, more than tripling the available units in downtown for people to reside there. It is obviously the development of a long vacant site that has a critical impact on a key gateway to the city as well as on the downtown core. It increases the size of Riverfront Park by almost 4 acres, a widely supported decision. The construction of the apartments, will spur $42 million in economic activity, support $10.9 million in labor income, and 252 construction jobs. It will spur the planned construction of a 40,000 square foot commercial office space, which is fully taxable on the North Park block. Advanced planned construction of a 38,000 square foot post-acute rehab center in the North Block with $17.7 million in additional economic activity, $9.1 million in labor income, and another 256 construction jobs. It stimulates an overall private sector investment valued at $60 million, both in South and North Block developments. This is a signature downtown development. This is one of those once-in-a-generation opportunities that we have to affect downtown and really the rest of Salem. I won't go into the other amenities that my colleagues have mentioned, only to ask you to join the City Council, which reached a unanimous decision on what had been a reasonably divisive issue among us, based on what we think is a really well-planned, fortuitous opportunity for this community. We hope you'll join us in that support.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you.
No one else has signed up to testify on agenda items. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the board? If not, we'll move on to our action items, and that's a request from the City of Salem regarding approval of the multiple unit housing tax incentive program. Chuck.
I would like to declare a conflict of interest with this particular vote, so I will not be voting as an employee of Mountain West Career Technical Institute. Yes.
Yes, Nancy?
I just wanted to make the motion.
Well, we need to have Superintendent Radich introduce the issue.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
So before you make the motion, if Superintendent Radich would like to walk us through that. Chuck, your conflict is noted for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board of Directors. As you are aware, Mayor Peterson and the Salem City Council request board approval of this multiple unit housing tax incentive program. The program is authorized under Oregon Revised Statutes and does allow local governments to establish a program for property tax exemptions to stimulate construction of multiple housing in the core areas of urban centers. The board has received letters of support of the tax abatement from the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce, the City of Salem, the County Commissioners, and the Oregon Artist Series Foundation. As the board is aware, Phase 1 of the project will include 115 apartments, 12,200 square feet of office space, and 2,800 square feet of retail space, and over 400 parking stalls. The second phase includes an additional 60 apartment buildings, units. The tax incentive is only applicable to the multifamily portion of this project. The City Council approval provides for a 10-year abatement of the residential portion of the project's property tax levy allocated by the city. In order for the project to receive full abatement of applicable property taxes, taxing districts comprising at least 51% of the total property tax levy must agree by resolution to the abatement. This item was presented to the school board for first reading on February 11th, 2014. And district staff recommends adoption of the resolution. Chief Operations Officer Michael Wolf and John Wales from the Urban Development Director from the City of Salem are also present to respond to any board questions following the board action here.
Thank you, Superintendent Radich. Nancy.
I move adoption of the request from the City of Salem regarding approval of the multiple unit housing tax incentive program.
Second, Chris?
You want me to second it?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
That's seconded by Chris. Discussion. Mr. Kylo.
I don't believe this is a good idea. I think it's bad public policy. If the city, whoever, Mountain West, whomever, there's plenty of other groups out there to make the 51% without the Salem-Keizer School Board support. I mean, you do the math, subtract our percentage, and they have plenty. The other groups, to my understanding, I am glad to hear they went to the county commissioners, because when I talked to a county commissioner, they hadn't been contacted. Other groups that I've had a chance to speak with, they haven't talked to or hadn't been contacted, and were quite upset to hear that their budgets could be impacted to some degree, or that this hadn't even been discussed with them. I think that's an important fact. I'm not in favor of this.
Thanks, Paul.
Sure.
Nancy.
Well, I made the motion. I would like to speak in favor of it. I think that in addition to the revenue to the general fund of income taxes by the jobs created by this kind of a development, it will also, when the property, which has a very low value at the moment, comes out of the urban renewal district, the property tax value will be so much increased that will also increase the revenue to the Salem-Keizer district. So those are the two reasons that I'm supporting it.
Okay. Just a second, Paul, make sure.
I know, that's fine.
Chris.
I'll just say the reason I was willing to second it is because, as I asked last time we met,
I don't understand why we even have to do this other than state law, because there is no impact on our budget. So I'm not sure exactly why we have to approve it. But I tend to support it because every time I drive by it, I'm like, we need to fix that. So I'm just sort of, as a citizen of the city of Salem, would love to see that fixed. And so I tend to support it for that reason. That's pretty much all my thinking on it at this point. I don't know why we're even doing this, but.
Okay. Rick?
I'm going to go off topic just a second. Councilor Dickey, I understand you're stepping down from the council. I want to thank you for your service to the city of Salem. Oh, you're not? Oh, I thought you were running for county commissioner and stepping down. Okay. Well, thank you for your service anyway. I drive by this structure every day because I work down on Front Street for Truett Family Foods, and I've looked at this structure every day since it's been started to be torn down, waiting for it to disappear. And now it's finally starting to disappear, which is a very nice thing. Mayor Peterson, when you describe what it's all going to be and what it's going to look like, almost makes me want to give up my 5 acres east of town and move to town. You know, I'm getting older and I need to take it easy. So, you know, that's potentially a thing that could happen. I'm in favor of the project. I think it needs to go forward. So I'm going to be supporting this motion to approve the abatement.
Okay. Jeff, and then Paul, I know you wanted to say something else. Jeff?
I'd just like to ask a couple more clarifying questions for the sake of the audience and the clarity on the issue. If we do not approve it, what difference does it make? Like, if nobody approves this change, what will be the impact?
I'm going to have our Chief Operating Officer, Mike Wolf, and the gentleman from the Urban Renewal Department of the City of Salem address that question if you'd like, please.
I'll turn it over to Doug here in a second. I think it's around timing, and while there may be percentages that come together that will get you over the 51% from other jurisdictions, I think that it's a matter of timing and keeping the project, the development plan moving forward.
If you could state your name, please.
Doug Rux, Assistant Director, Urban Development Department for the City of Salem. As Mike has indicated, part of this is an issue of timing. As the mayor indicated in her comments, is that, you know, without the approval of this particular abatement, the project overall, the Pringle Square project, does not move forward. So there is a percentage basis, and so it's stated at 51%. With the Marion County approval, where it's at 49.49%. School board, if you were to approve this tonight, it gets to 83.21%, so it passes the 51% threshold. If you did not, as the question was raised, is that then it's going to the other taxing districts to try to get to that 51% number.
Thank you. Jeff, you had another question?
Well, I was asking more about, you say there's no direct impact on our revenue. So the way it would work out is that in 10 years, then there would be an impact on the revenue or not?
No. With the urban renewal program in place now, is that the tax increment that is collected is based upon the increased value in the project. That goes to the urban renewal program to do projects that are listed within that urban renewal plan. So as was stated earlier, that over this 10-year period, it's the urban renewal agency who's foregoing that increased revenue from this particular project. At the end of that 10 years, if the urban renewal district is open still, the district would continue to collect that tax increment. At some point in time, the city council would make a decision to terminate that district, or it would reach its maximum indebtedness amount. One of those two triggers in the future come to play, then would put the property back onto the tax rolls, and all those taxes would be divided amongst all of the overlapping taxing districts. So it's in the future is when that revenue can come forward. And so, as one director indicated, it's looking to that future, which is generally about 15 to 20 years out.
Does that answer your question, Jeff?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Paul?
I don't understand why a project this big needs the pittance, is my understanding, that we're going to be throwing at it, and why this pittance is so important to the project going forward.
That would be a question that would be best, I think, directed to the developer. We know that when we were here last time, we indicated that with the city's approval, over that 10-year period, it was roughly a $1 million abatement. With getting to the 51% is roughly a $3 million abatement over that 10-year period. The final numbers have to be calculated by the Marion County assessor. Those are only estimates at this point in time. The developers run a pro forma and has indicated, and that's why they came to the city initially, saying in order for this project to pencil out, they needed that particular abatement in order for this project to go forward. I think that's all further. I can't speak more for the developer, but that's what the information was that was presented to the city.
Paul? Again, I'm back to, when I hear the large numbers of all of the good it's going to do and all it's going to earn for the developer, I don't understand why our abatement makes that big a deal. And I understand that you can't answer that for them. So.
Rick?
If we vote in favor tonight and push you over the top, are you still going to go to all the smaller units to at least get their opinion on record so they can voice their opinion, or do you quit with us?
Well, with the statutory provision, if we get to the 51%, we're not required to go and talk with the other districts.
Be nice if you did.
Any other discussion, board members? If not, I'm going to call for Jeff, sorry.
So if we did not vote on it, then we would force you to have to go to the other taxing districts and let them vote on their own.
Well, let me clarify, Jeff. We are going to vote. There's a motion before the body, so we're going to vote. If we voted it down, I believe it would require the city to look elsewhere to make that 51 percentile requirement.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Councilor Bennett reminded me that we would be going and talking with our other taxing districts as part of this project as well.
Okay, so I'm going to call for the question, recognizing for the record that Director Lee has announced a conflict of interest and will not vote on this motion. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, no.
No.
State, for the record, the motion passes, and Director Kylo votes no.
I abstained.
You
Oh, I can't abstain on
You
this
can't
one.
abstain, Jeff. We need
Okay.
your vote.
Okay. I will vote. I'll vote. Sorry. So. I'll vote no then at this point.
Rick, you were a yes, correct?
Yes, I was.
I was a yes, Nancy and Chris. So it is adopted, 4-2 with Jeff, and Paul no, and Chuck conflicted as announced on the conflict. Thank you. Moving on, adoption of the consent calendar. We generally take all these items in a single motion unless a board member needs to pull them for consideration. Any of our board members need to pull those consent items? I'm not seeing that. I'll entertain a motion.
I move adoption.
Second.
Moved by Chris, seconded by Rick. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Adoption of the consent calendar is carried. We don't have any readings tonight. We will move on to our reports and our monitoring report on executive limitation number 9, asset protection. Dr. Radich.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and Board, this is the 9th of 12 monitoring reports scheduled for the 2013-14 school year, and is designed to provide the board with information to determine if the superintendent is meeting the criteria established within the adopted executive limitations. So executive limitation number 9 is asset protection, and there are 8 criteria for the superintendent compliance included in this limitation. I will comment only on the first 3, but would also be happy to respond to board questions regarding any of the criteria. So under number 1, accordingly, the superintendent shall maintain the district's self-insurance fund at a level necessary to provide coverage against theft and casualty losses and against liability losses to board members, staff, and the district itself in an amount that is reasonable for school districts of like size in accordance with state law. So the district maintains a reasonable amount in the risk management fund to cover potential losses in the areas of general liability and property, as well as workers' comp and unemployment liability. The district is self-insured for the first $600,000 of liability and property loss and the first $600,000 of loss per workers' compensation claim. As of June 30th, 2013, the district's risk management fund contained a balance of approximately $13.5 million. This is a reasonable balance that provides the district with sufficient fund amount to address significant losses without jeopardizing the general fund. The risk management fund balance is reviewed annually and audited by external auditors every 2 years to ensure its continued adequacy to safeguard the district. The second criteria is the superintendent shall maintain excess insurance to cover losses in excess of district's self-insured retention. The district has excess liability coverage through June 30th, 2014 with Genesis Insurance Company with limits of $7 million. The district's property insurance is with Travelers and uses replacement costs for buildings, equipment, and hardware with policy limits of $200 million per occurrence. Earthquake and flood coverage are each limited to $25 million. Excess workers' comp insurance is with Star Insurance. Number 3, the superintendent shall receive, process, or disperse funds under controls that are sufficient under generally accepted accounting principles for governments. The district maintains internal financial controls to prevent fraud and theft from occurring. These controls can be as basic as locking cabinets and having passwords for computers, or more focused on behaviors such as separating out financial duties so no one individual has control over an entire financial transaction. Internal controls are tested as part of the district's annual external audit, and pages 158 and 159 of the 2012-13 Comprehensive Annual Report contain the auditor's report concerning these internal controls. There were no deficiencies in internal control identified, and the auditors considered there would be no material weaknesses. So that concludes the presentation relative to 3 of those indicators, and I'm happy to respond to questions the board may have concerning the others.
Any questions? Chris?
My question was about 6.
Okay.
Fail to implement procedures to protect intellectual property information and files from loss. We keep hearing through the budget process about our outdated student management system, and a lot of our computer technology being falling behind, I guess is a good word for it, and that we haven't been upgrading it. And I'm just wondering, when I read that this time around, that was the thought that went through my mind is, are we at a point where we're going to need to upgrade that in order to maintain security of information?
Yes, Director Brantley, actually 2 things. The district will be implementing a new student information system. As you're probably aware, our current system, SASE, is no longer supported technologically or in terms of any kind of support. So the district will be migrating to a new system. It's a system that's been in place in many of the other districts in Oregon. I think our Director of Technology has been very wise in not being an early implementer, because districts who were early implementers also found themselves with a great deal of consternation and downtime, simply because it takes time anytime you migrate to a new system, not only to train employees, but to make certain that those systems are working properly. Secondly, there's no doubt that we are very concerned about infrastructure and replacement of our current assets relative to technology. The Director of Technology, Kristen Deuce, has worked with her staff to put together a long-term replacement plan. And as we meet with the board and budget committee relative to next year's budget, you will hear some discussion relative to technology in that budget.
Any further questions? Generally, we look for consensus on our executive limitation reports by a sign of a thumb up from board members. Looking down the line, Superintendent Radich, I see consensus from our board members on that. Next is a discussion on our strategic plan. Superintendent
Thank you.
Batch?
Assistant Superintendent Ken Parshall will make the report relative to the strategic plan.
Dr. Radich, Chair Green, members of the board, it's my pleasure to present an update on strategic plan goal number 4, which is to continue to provide professional development that offers quality and focused opportunities, has long-term sustainability, and provides implementation strategies for all staff, including instructional coaching and mentoring. Here's a bar graph that shows professional learning opportunities our staff have engaged in over the last 8 years. Please notice that last year, in the 2012-13 school year, Salem-Keizer staff members engaged in more than 1,200 professional learning opportunities.
Oops.
Through the Academy for Teaching and Learning, staff are able to select professional learning opportunities and even track those professional learning opportunities on their transcript. New this year, staff are able to go into the Legends document, select a category where they would like to engage in learning, and professional learning opportunities that are aligned to the standard in the Legends document are identified for them. So it's nice to be able to differentiate to meet the needs of our teachers. Something that's very unique to Salem-Keizer and is spreading to other districts in the state is a personalized learning opportunity online where staff are able to, right from their desktop during their prep period before or after school, or even at home on weekends and evenings, engage in professional learning of their choice. The professional development opportunity of PD 360 allows staff to go in and actually observe model lessons provided by teachers online. And new this year, Salem-Keizer teachers are actually featured as some of the model teachers modeling instructional strategies for staff members around the nation. In 2008, Salem-Keizer School District received a chalkboard grant through the Teach Oregon project. One component of that grant was mentoring. So Salem-Keizer has actually been out front for several years in the focus on mentoring new teachers. We've made significant progress in retention of beginning teachers through these efforts. And recently, last summer, we received a strategic initiative grant in collaboration with 8 surrounding districts to support not only Salem-Keizer beginning teachers, but beginning teachers in those neighboring districts also. To the right, you can see some of the highlights that beginning teachers report about the mentoring experience, being observed by their mentor and receiving immediate feedback, attending learning labs to observe master teachers, support with professional goals and the Legends process, and certainly emotional support as they start a very complex career. And then down at the bottom is a pie graph of how our mentors spend their hours. So you can see that they spend several hours on, the blue section is one-to-one. The second section is instructional support, and then curricular support, and then also observation.
Ken, could you
Questions?
identify, my eyes, I can't quite read that, what each one of those colors is?
Yes, so the blue on the right-hand side, where they spend most of their hours, is one-to-one support. So that could be collaborative planning with the teacher, reflecting on a lesson. So it's one-on-time mentor and beginning teacher. That's where they spend most of their time. And then the kind of red color there is instructional support. And that could be, again, lesson design, helping actually in the classroom rather than observing and giving feedback, but they're actually the second instructor in the room, maybe even working with a small group to support a beginning teacher and their students. And then the greens area is curricular support. So it's around the what we are teaching and looking at standards, breaking it down, aligning scope and sequence with other teachers at the same grade level. And then, of course, the purple area there is the observation and the by-the-minute feedback. And so our mentors actually practice a technique of instructional coaching. We call it whisper coaching, where they give actually in-the-moment feedback to a beginning teacher. So rather than waiting until the lesson is completed, they might actually go and whisper to a teacher a suggestion of how to move a lesson on.
Thank you.
So it's really in-the-moment teaching. Okay. Other questions?
Is this the end of your report?
What's that?
Do you have more, or are you done?
That's it, unless you
Okay,
have questions.
So, questions from the board. Paul?
I have a question. In reading about the challenges, I had a couple of quick questions. What are you doing to recruit more guest teachers? And how are you prioritizing their usage? That's one question.
Yeah, thank you. Well, one of the challenges is related to professional development. Certainly professional development is valuable, but we also have a model right now where we pull some teachers out of the classroom to provide professional development. In other words, we're kind of creating one of our challenges. So we're working on alternative ways to deliver professional development so we can make sure we're keeping teachers in the classroom as much as possible. So that will alleviate some of the pressure on guest teachers, which we used to call substitute teachers. The other thing is that certainly we want to recruit quality teachers, and that includes our guest teachers also. And so we go to colleges and universities with teacher education programs. We go to educator fairs, and certainly in addition to filling positions, we want to also recruit the best and most talented teachers as guest teachers.
Right, and my second piece of that first question was then how do you prioritize the guest teachers as to where they go within their assignment day?
Well,
I mean, is professional development the highest priority so that if we know we have a professional development opportunity, the guest teacher goes there first above someone who's ill or on a personal day or on another district mission?
Well, some people are pre-assigned, and so those positions are already filled first, and then they're filled as they come in the morning. Professional development activities are prearranged, and so those, in theory, should be filled ahead of time.
That's what I was trying to get at. So that's
absolutely.
Okay. And then you also have, it says you're working on for time for the professional learning communities to meet together when they are fresh and able to work without distraction. Does that mean you're buying them out for the day, or what does that look like?
Well, more than anything, it's a philosophy about carving out time for professional learning teams or data teams, Paul, to have that uninterrupted time. I wouldn't describe it as one solution, but just in theory, making sure that we're continuing to try to carve out time for teachers to work with colleagues.
And you're percentage-wise, how successful with that?
Well, I think our schools are very effective at that, in carving out time, but we always recognize that time might be our biggest challenge. And so prioritizing that collaborative time for teachers that teach the same course or teach the same grade level.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Chris?
I was going to do this during our sort of report time, but I will do it now. I just have to describe to the rest of the board something Nancy and I walked in on during the superintendent interviews. There was a workshop going on with about a dozen Literacy Squared teachers from around the district. And they all happened to be at Chavez the day that we were out there on the superintendent interview. And we walked into a classroom, I think it was a fifth grade classroom, where, where all dozen of these people are all walking around with their clipboards and their feedback information and all this stuff. And then 5 more of us walk in, and these fifth graders never skipped a beat. They are so used to this kind of interactive teachers coming in and watching them and watching their teacher and doing that out there that they are to the point now where the kids just kept on going no matter who was sitting there looking over their shoulder. I was totally amazed by that because in my experience, when people walk into a classroom, all the kids say, "What are they doing here?" So it was sort of neat, and it just sort of showed to us, I think, that it is changing the culture of how teachers are working together and how they are learning from one another. I was very impressed by that one observation was just like a whoa to me. Absolutely.
So Ken, I have a couple of questions for you. You showed us a screen there where a teacher can go into the Legends and pick a program. So when they pick one of those, like let's say they highlight the one you've got highlighted there, where are those programs? Is that an offsite program? Is that a computer-based? What are they?
This is within our, what we call our Academy for Teaching and Learning.
Okay.
So a staff member, a teacher or a support staff member can go in, they can see the coursework available. If you look at the menu on the left-hand side, they can actually look at offerings and then create their own class list, what they're signing up for. And the feature I was sharing that's new this year, if I'm a teacher and I'm looking at one of those standards in my Legends document, my evaluation tool, I can go in there, and if there's an area I'm trying to work on, I can click on that standard and a list of offerings that are related to that will come up. And so it really helps the individual teacher really plan their own professional development, which is very powerful.
So I've got a follow-up to that, and I hold a professional license as well, and sometimes I don't always find coursework that is really pertaining to what I do, and so I'll take one just to get the credits in. What do we do with professional development if it's not meeting the professional development of our staff? Let's say they go to that and they say, you know, really none of that's in my legend stuff. I want to do this that's not on our program, but I've heard about this great program over at Western Oregon University. Do we work with them to allow them to go do those type of professional development opportunities?
That would depend on the specific offering, certainly, but most of the offerings are driven by staff request. And so either through already existing feedback loops or individual requests that teachers or support staff can make to the professional development office, those drive the offerings that we create. So for example, we have some in-service time this week, and those offerings during the in-service time for support staff this week are driven by requests from our staff members from around the district.
But I'm hearing you say that there are exceptions to that. We do allow folks, depending on the program, once our PD office looks at it,
Sure.
their supervisor may look at it and say, yeah, that fits with what you've got in your plan, and we do make exceptions to that.
So in addition to these internal offerings, staff can still go out and take a college course or go to a conference, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Ken.
You bet.
Any further questions? Chuck, sorry.
Good report, Ken. After 40 years, though, in education, I feel like I'm out of the loop. How long have we been calling substitute teachers guest teachers?
For a few years.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And we call student teachers teacher candidates now. And supervising teachers who watch over student teachers, we call them, what's the word? I'm forgetting now. But we're renaming many things. And
I just need a glossary, that's all.
yes, exactly.
I think, Chuck, I think the kids still call them substitutes,
Yeah.
at least my kids do, but if we could get the lexicon up to guest teacher, that's probably better.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Moving on, information. So in your packets, you do have the schedule of upcoming school board and budget committee meetings. You also had at your place tonight, I'm sorry, Paul.
Just a question, on May 21st, budget hearing or work session, or budget hearing and work session?
I'm going to look to Superintendent Radich or our
There's
Sorry, Paul. They're both
on
on
May
here.
21st, we have a 6 o'clock budget hearing listed and a 6 o'clock work session. And I didn't know if they were the same, or if they were different, or
That's
and/or.
a great question. Mary, do you happen to have your calendar with you? I did not bring mine.
Right now, we're holding that just for a budget hearing, not a work session. We'll
Oh, okay.
correct that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nancy.
I just want to point out to everyone that before the next board meeting, which is April 8th, there is a budget committee work session that's been added that night.
Also at your place tonight were commencement dates for the area high schools that you have and additional ones that you signed up for. Please be sure to get those on your calendar. Paul, Nancy, and I, we've signed up for additional graduations for us to attend. Board members, you can attend any of the ones that you'd like to, other than the ones that you're assigned to as your zone high school.
Chairperson Green,
Christie?
excuse me, those were just for you and Nancy and Paul because you had signed up for an
Okay.
additional graduation. I had provided those at an earlier meeting for everyone else.
But they are welcome to attend those if they'd like to. So on May 20th is the Eagle Feather graduation at South Salem High School for our Native American students. The Community Transitions Program is May 29th at Chemeketa Community College. I would encourage you to bring a box of tissues to that program. And the ECHS TPP program is at North Salem High School on June 5th. And Paul, you've signed up to attend that one. Any questions on the calendar? I know that Mary has sent out an email today to board members with regard to our continuing superintendent search. It seems like we're going to be spending more time together, board members. But she has sent an email out. If you could respond to that, Mary, you wanted an answer by Friday?
By Friday,
By
please.
Friday, if you could please respond to that for her with the dates that she requested. Any other questions on the calendar? If not, we'll move on to audience communications related to non-agenda items. When I call your name, please come up to the podium and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Again, we will be using timers. When the yellow light turns on right here, you'll have 30 seconds to finish up your speaking, and when the red light turns on, Your time is up. You'll also hear beeps from the end of the bench down there. Paul DeCopoulos, our district counsel, is keeping track of the time. And we have Aurora Cedillo. Please come forward. Please state your name and your address, and welcome.
Aurora Cedillo. I live at 260 Strand Avenue, Southeast Salem. Grandmother of a lot of kids and aunt to a lot of kids. I'm here because you guys are doing a really important job looking for our new superintendent, and thank you for inviting the community to those events. And also just to keep talking the same information that, 49% of our kids are diverse learners, and remembering their diverse needs. Communication with parents is really, really important because a lot of those diverse students have newly arrived parents to our system and do not understand it. And we would like to have meetings where parents can get the information that they need so that they can advocate for their kids. Parents come to the people in the community to get some information, and a lot of that information may not be current. So it's important that we have ongoing communication with parents so they understand the program models, they understand how staff is hired, and the need that we have to have bilingual, bicultural staff that understands the lived experience of the kids of this community so they can advocate for the kids also. Because as educators, we're advocates also. And as school board members, you're advocates. We're all advocating, for the students in our community. Making sure that equity, equality, and justice is done for every child that comes to our district. Aligning those needs, not only linguistic needs, but also the needs of getting information, the needs of understanding a procedure, the needs of having a committee that can listen to some issue and can be treated with a fair and just way. In the past, we used to have equities committees. I don't know if we have them yet. In the past, we had, teams that came together and decided on an issue, and I don't know if they have that anymore. But very, very important that we have those bilingual, bicultural staff members at all levels. Secretary, when they receive the families, improve communication and understanding not only the word, but also the behaviors of students. So thank you very much for all the work that you do, and keep inviting us so we can partner in selecting this new superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the only person we had signed up. Was there anybody else that wanted to address the board? If not, we'll move on to board report on activities. Board members. Nancy.
So on last Friday night, I went to the Willamette Academy event, and I just want to toot their horn a little bit. Willamette Academy is a program that's a collaborative between the school district and Willamette University that selects students who have the potential to be first-generation collegians. They're primarily students from poverty backgrounds. They're primarily students of minority or English language learner backgrounds, and every year talk about needing a box of Kleenex. These kids stand up and talk about what this program has meant to them. They have supports. The number of Willamette students who are mentoring these students is just phenomenal. I had a student, a McNary student, Chuck, I got that wrong, at my table, who's a junior, talking about what her colleges are that she's looking at, and her mother and her grandmother were there, and just the pride that they had in what this program has given her in terms of her worldview of the potential out there for her future. In addition, I sat at my table with a Willamette student who's a junior, who's very, very active in the program, and to see how much she was getting from her ability to work with the students as well. It just is a really phenomenal program that I think not many people know about, and just wanted to highlight it. It's a great event.
Thanks, Nancy. Chris?
I do have one other quick, just wanted to mention that the Education Foundation again this year ran the district spelling bee. And my wife and I got to be readers at the elementary and the middle school level, and didn't need any Kleenex or anything. It was just smiles all the way through and watching those kids spell all those words and then get their awards. Great afternoon.
Chuck?
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment McNary High School in Keizer. Friday night, March 7th, they had an incredible evening for their fine arts department. It just reminded me how much extra work and energy our teachers have to put in to fund programs like that. They had a silent auction with a lot of great items that parents must have procured and then showed up and bought. But there was plenty of music and festivities and food, and it just, again, reminded me with the tough times that we've had, how our faculties and staff step up and do fundraisers to support the programs that they teach. And the kids were incredible. They really got into the theme of the evening and did a great job.
Chris?
I was remiss in not mentioning that the Kiwanis Club turned out all the scorers for the spelling bee. Thank you, Kiwanis Club.
So I attended last night the Sprague Area Band Festival. I guess you'd call it a festival. It's where all the elementary feeder schools and the 2 middle schools that feed into Sprague put on a band performance, and the gymnasium at Sprague High School was packed. And I can tell you that our music programs are vibrant, alive, and well. The elementary kids practice at their individual schools, and last night was the first night they were all together to play the song they had been practicing. So it's really amazing to watch these kids and their band teachers work them through that process. It's really a truly amazing event. And to watch the kids who had been at my son's school at Liberty, now my daughter's school, and then they go to Crossler, they go to Judson, and their level of playing is absolutely amazing. We have one of, if not the best band program in the state for a reason. That's for our band teachers, our committed band students, and the parents that get them there at 7 a.m. in the morning so they can participate in band. But it is really a unique opportunity for those kids. And just as an example, my daughter, who's in 3rd grade, went with us to watch my son perform, and she's very excited to be in band next year. So it's one of those things that continue to grow within our system, and I think it's one of the things that we can have as a pride point in our school district, and we win multiple awards for our band program, and it's one of those things, even in tough times, we kept it in the budget. So I appreciated that. The other thing I'll mention, and it's really hard for me to mention this because I'm a Sprague Olympian, graduated from there, but the Saxon boys basketball team and the Saxon girls basketball team performed at state. The boys finished 3rd. And the girls 4th. So congratulations to the Saxon basketball team. That's really hard for a Sprague Olympian to say.
It's a great day to be a Saxon.
Congratulations to both of those teams. Anything else? Superintendent comments.
Well, I'm really pleased, Jim, that all those students were playing the same tune, even though they're from different schools. Just briefly, the board is aware that we are very aggressively advancing our timeline for recruiting and hiring, and have actually gone out ahead of time this year and hired a number of special educators who are very, very difficult to find, very talented people who work with a very special population of our students. Assistant Superintendent Partial has also been very, very actively seeking bilingual teachers and support staff. I will say that it's very challenging for us to staff the number of programs and that we run in the Salem-Keizer School District, but we're committed to trying to find the most quality people that we can for these programs. As the board is aware, I've been on school visits. I'm up to about 30 now, and I'm going, Chuck, to your area, 3 Keizer schools tomorrow.
You'll have a delightful day.
Thank you. So I want to wish the board a very happy spring break. We will be working on budget to some degree at that time, and also, as you know, we kind of flip the switch and move into a lot of planning for next school year. So we've been doing some work on the strategic planning and staffing, just all those kinds of things that need to get done to roll up into next school year. So I hope you Have an enjoyable week. Some of us will be around if you need to contact us.
Anything else come before the board? Thank you, Superintendent Radich. If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.